Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more episode of Changing the Game. Today, I have here Grace Mugabe. Grace, welcome to the show.
Hi, Wilson. Thanks for having me.
It's a big pleasure, and everyone. So you will see by Grace's bio what I mean by, it's a great privilege to have her. So, Grace, let me go through your bio, and then we come back with questions to you for you.
Sure. Cool.
So, Grace Mugabe. Grace is an award-winning money management expert and a speaker who specializes in narrowing the financial wealth and information divide that acutely impacts women and minorities. In the years following the 2008 financial crisis, Grace walked away from a lucrative financial role in the mining sector and rerouted her skills around financial literacy, management, and business development to help improve the earning potential and financial infrastructure of business and communities led by underrepresented women and minorities. Everyone, if I jump 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, I come to the fact that, just to have an idea of recent awards and nominations that Grace received. So she is in the 2020 list of top 50 small business leaders by Inside Small Business, the finalist in the 2019 Women in Finance Awards, and finalist of the 2017 United Nations Association of Australia Excellence in Gender Equity Promotion. So Grace, I will stop talking about your bio. I may go back to it. But before I go back to it, Grace, beyond this awesome bio, who are you? What Grace is about. What's your story?
Thanks, Wilson. So I was born to a Zimbabwean man and a South African woman. And at a young age, we moved to America. So I had a lot of my formative years there before we moved back to Africa and then coming to Australia as an 18-year-old. So I was raised with different cultures, which is something that I'm really privileged to have experienced, and the ability to travel from a young age. I think that's studied accounting because I had a passion for numbers, and I've grown up in an environment where giving back was a core value of ours. So even as a young age, my parents would take us when they would go volunteering and helping out with the homeless, and so that's something that they've instilled in me, and I've continued to do even as an adult.
Uh-huh. So you start your answer talking about privilege. So I understand that you study in Australia accounting?
Yes, I did.
Was that how you came to start accounting? Where that passion came from, and when you decided what you wanted to do?
So I guess I was always good with numbers, and so it was just something that I guess when you're growing up, your society has these expectations that you get good grades, you go to uni, and then you get a good job. And so I figured because I was good with numbers, that was what I was going to do.
That's a similarity with me. So that's why the reason why I ended up doing engineering is because maths was something that I liked.
Yeah.
So I apologize, everyone, because you might hear some barks. So that's my little cookie that's around here. Grace, so did you feel that in any moment, did you feel that because you a woman, you could or could not go for that sort of counting numbers sort of career?
No, actually, I grew up with my parents telling me that I could be and do anything I wanted to. So I think for me, it was more of a shock when people would tell me what I couldn't do. And that was actually one of the first things that was told to me when I landed in Australia. So a fellow African lady said to me that because I was a student, the only job I'd be able to get was working in aged care or
Oh.
as a cleaner.
Hmm.
And I've never been one who likes to be told what I can or can't do. So one of the things that I did do towards the end of my uni studies while I was doing part-time work was I ended up applying for a job in a call center. And I was asked, oh, how did you get that? I was like, well, I just applied. So I think, a lot of the times, sometimes we also tend to tell ourselves things that just because I am like this, I'm not going to be able to achieve that.
Well, it was clear that your education, particularly your, the example of your parents, you know, uh, they engineer you in the other way, right? So there is nothing I cannot do. So interesting enough, you share this experience of immigrating to Australia and being told that you could only do that or this. So I do remember an episode with my wife, and it wasn't about her being women, it was more about coming from Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
So she was preparing herself to do her PhD at university, and she shared that with someone that was doing English class together. And she was received with laughs and like, oh, you dreaming, that's impossible, forget about it, girl, and then
Wow.
blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, that was actually, well, interesting enough, Renata moved on and did her PhD, but it did affect her. So she said, well, why are these people saying this? And she self-doubt for a second after hearing that. So,
Yeah.
Grace, you graduated in accounting, and I reckon by your bio that you move into a mining job. Is that the case?
Yeah, so actually, while I was still working in the call center, one of the things that happened was they put out an ad, you know, online saying that they were looking for an assistant accountant who typically has about 2 to 3 years experience. And so I saw that and I chose to apply for that job, even though I still hadn't graduated. I was in my last semester. And so they gave me a call and said, hey, do you realize you applied for a job that you have no experience in? And I said, yes, I did so because I wanted you to know that there's someone working in your call center that's about to graduate, and that if you ever have a graduate role vacancy, if you could please consider me. So they asked me to just come in for a chat, which I did. And then 2 days later, they actually created a graduate accounting role. So that's how I got my first accounting role, and it was for a telecommunications company.
That's awesome.
And then, thank you. And so through that, then I managed to move my way, I guess, up the corporate ladder into then mining.
Yep. So it's interesting how you're breaking stereotypes already. You already mentioned 3 or 4 things that are actually breaking stereotypes. I heard once that it seems to be the female characteristic that you don't apply for the job unless you are 100% fit that sort of profile and etc. So so I have trouble in making judgments whether that is female or male, but it's interesting that you look at the job description and didn't meet 100% of the requirements, but it still had a goal, still and by the way, so you got the job, right?
I did, yes.
So that's an awesome walk the talk example. So you need to go for it, right?
Yes, definitely. You need to put yourself out there. And I try and do that in all sort of situations. So it could be even something in my personal life where I could be, say, for example, applying for a house. At the moment, we know that the rental market is pretty bad. And so if I were looking for a place, I would make sure that my application looks very different to what everyone else's. So in the past, one of the things that I've done is written a letter to the landlord, and it'll talk about me as an individual, how I will take care of their property, treat it like it's my own, bit of information about the things that I like to do outside of work, and then, manage to get that place. And first thing that the landlord would say is, no one's ever written me a letter. So always looking at, ways in which you can make yourself different, because I'm already different.
Yeah.
So, why not go the extra mile?
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. What an example. So I do remember a colleague, a person that was talking about the fact that she was going for this university that had a very tough exam to go in, and there was only one spot for 200 candidates, and we were having a conversation about the fact that while you are one person, you only need one spot, so you need to make that spot yours, right?
Yeah.
So which
Very
is
true.
pretty similar concept, yeah.
Yeah.
So in that story of as getting the job and working out in your career, promotions and ranking up, so something happened then. So what was that? What made you change your journey, I guess?
I guess so while I was working in mining, I was enjoying, some of what I was doing, particularly the working with numbers and, working with my colleagues, traveling up to site and teaching them about, the budgets and sort of getting to understand the business and using different examples that they could relate to. But after work, I'd always rush to go and volunteer. And I was working, at the time, I was on the board of a multicultural women's health center. And I'd really enjoy doing that. And it started to feel like I had two separate lives. And I guess I then sort of thought about how I could use my skills for good and be able to integrate those two things that I was quite passionate about. And so that was when I decided to start my business, Financially Empowered. And then so started my corporate escape plan, where I would wake up at 3 in the morning, work on the business before I'd go into work. And business, I guess my day job became my vehicle to being able to, work in my business full time.
So that's fantastic. So that's that's a trend of among entrepreneurs, right? So the entrepreneurs, have a dream and want to do their own jobs, and sometimes we don't see that sort of the 2-3 extra shifts that entrepreneurs go through before they can think about doing the whole jump into it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so it is still your business, right? So it's what do you do today?
Yes, it is. So 8 years later,
Yeah.
8 in January, I'm still here.
Nice. 10 years.
No, 8 years in January.
8, nice. So tell us about it. What is it?
So Financially Empowered is a social purpose business. And so what I do is I equip women and minorities with upskilling when it comes to financial literacy and working with them in their businesses to better understand their finances. So how to manage their cash flow, how to forecast, their budget, and be profitable and sustainable long term.
Very good. So is your customers is individual, so people, or from those minority groups that you mentioned?
Yes, so usually they are in business. So I work with people in business. I do also run financial literacy workshops, and a lot of the times that's for individuals. So from startups, so a lot of the times they may not have actually registered their businesses to then people who are in business, as well as a program that's called Money Matters for Migrants, which is specific to, which caters to the specific needs of migrants.
Grace, what are the biggest challenges your clients have? So when you come to actually teach them about financial literacy, so I imagine that the natural answer for that question is that working out the numbers as you expect, but I would assume that that's just part of the problem.
It is. So I think if, for example, if we're to use a migrant as an example, there's starting off with understanding the Australian financial system. So understanding things like tax and superannuation. In some instances, you might have, say, for example, a refugee that has had to live from day to day worrying about whether or not they'll live until tomorrow. And then the next thing they land in Australia and you're told, oh, here's some superannuation that you can access in 30 years. also coming from countries where maybe you don't have to lodge a tax return, for whatever reason. Being able to know who to trust and someone who's going to be able to speak to you rather than at you and throwing all these big financial terms. There's then, being able to then manage money. So again, sometimes, people may have never had to manage money, or having to maintain a family here in Australia as well as a family overseas. And then all of the complications around, running a business, you've got your BAS, what's GST, employing people, and then the assumptions that people also make of you and the stereotypes when you're actually just trying to run your business on a day-to-day basis.
Interesting. One of the things that I'm curious about is, okay, you used to work in a corporate job in a mining company, so stereotypes tell me that you would potentially having a very nice salary, or and then you decided to go for your own business, and you have this journey of 8 years. You went for that business fundamentally because you want to do something good with your skill set, and driven by that purpose, driven by that, having that giving as a drive. My curiosity is, how is that journey in terms of your own financial expectations or fears, or being able to live out of it? And is that journey, has that journey been good for you?
So it has been a roller coaster of emotions. So I guess one of the things is, given my accounting background and also, I guess, the skills that my mom taught me from a young age in terms of budgeting, I set out a plan at the very start in terms of how much I needed to make sure I had saved up to be able to actually go out on my own. So that was quite helpful, and to being able to actually get started. Yes, then once I started, it's also, the learning curve around, even though I'm good at accounting, there's still the sales and the marketing, the business development, and all of those, and the technology that you need to learn as well. And then, like you said, they're often stereotypes. So, I'll go into certain situations, and at the time, people might say things like, you're too young, or we're not what you were looking for, or assume that, people will come and be like, oh, can you speak to the business owner? It's like, oh, I am the business owner. And then you can see the look of surprise. So it has, its challenges, and you learn to be resilient, and you remember your why and your purpose and why you're doing what you're doing.
So you're telling your story. So obviously, so we having this chat here, it means that you have been successful in your story so far. You're building it. You definitely are resilient woman. So I'm thinking, I'm thinking about the hundreds of people, hundreds of women that's out there in a work that they struggle more in a sense that they're not happy in that doing that sort of job, and they want to go for that job, for their dreams, but they think that's impossible, right? So he's never going to be able to find that job, that dream, and etc. So then you sharing that, you first of all, you did that leap of faith, but first of all, your accounting knowledge helped, because you could budget and plan financially, until you could do it. So, but also you face challenges, like the one you mentioned is that, you go to pitch your business, and you're not taking seriously, or not taking as respectfully as we expect. Those moments are moments that you might think, oh, did I do the right thing, or do I go wrong? Do I keep going? And Were there any moments that you thought you have chosen the wrong path?
No. As difficult as it's been and as stressful as it can be, there's not once that I've ever regretted what I'm doing. When it gets hard, I think it's really important to lean on your support system and to also sometimes take a step back and reevaluate and see what isn't working. Because sometimes it may be that, I might feel overwhelmed because maybe I've taken on too much or I haven't had a break and I'm feeling, burnt out. Having, a support system, so my family, I have friends who I can bounce ideas off of, who will encourage me when I'm doubting myself. And, imposter syndrome is real. I have experienced it on numerous occasions. And, sometimes you're asked to speak at an event and you read the email and you close it and, open it and think maybe that, the email will have disappeared because you're dreaming or they've got the wrong person. But again, your friends are there. That support system is there to be able to encourage you. But I think also, again, remembering why you're doing what you're doing. I also have what I call an accomplishment board. And I have written down all the things that I have managed to accomplish after moments of self-doubt. And so that helps me to, when I see that, or when I'm doubting myself, I look back and go, oh yes, I achieved this after this and this happened, or after thinking that I couldn't do it. And then that helps me again to keep going.
So I love that. So is that a tool that you use for yourself, right? So if I understood right, so you have like a book where you write down achievements?
It's actually a massive, like cardboard manila sheet of paper that I just write in a marker, and it's quite big. And then I've put it up on the wall so that it's visible. Yep. And yeah, whenever I have those moments of doubt, I can then look at that and I'll remember with each of those moments how I felt before that. And it's something that, I may have thought I couldn't achieve or never thought would ever happen. Or, things like joining a board, I always thought, I'd have to be an old person before I could do that. And so, being able to see that I managed to achieve that even after thinking it wasn't possible.
That's so
then
awesome
when I have
to Grace. Yeah, good. So I remember, well, I did mention before we start talking here that this evening, as I woke up in the middle of the night and I had troubles going back to sleep. And what was going on in my mind is that I couldn't stop thinking about some of the challenges we're having and having a little bit of, catastrophic thinking of, what if this doesn't happen and that doesn't happen and that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. It's just your mind tricking you. And interesting because, as the people that know me have maybe because of some of my limitations. So people only see that figure that, that's managing the business, that know what's doing and etc. So, but we don't get to realize that we all go through these moments, isn't it? And just our mind tricking us. I love your tool. So I can write down some achievements to give that sort of push in the pride.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have to be your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, that's definitely it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went to get some awards. So and you're also an ambassador for Aspire.
Yes. For the
So what is that? What is that? Is that you do some work related to that? Tell us a little bit about those things.
So part of that is, well, the reason that I accepted that nomination is, I guess, to also change the view of what an Australian is. And I use this platform as well as another way of being able to show, I guess, people who may label themselves as the other or might be face some sort of discrimination because of their age, their race, their gender, whatever the case may be, but to just show them what is possible.
Very nice. So that work entices in you going and do keynote speaking and talking to people, or letting, yeah.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So yeah, I- I'm I'm listening to you, and I'm imagining you having these chats and the impact that can cause. So that's pretty good. Uh, what is in? So I guess you have 8 years in your business, and I imagine that you are only the start of this journey, right?
Yes.
So how do you see what is in the future for you?
So I would like to be able to continue making an impact, or, I guess showing other people what is possible, empowering them to understand and manage their finances, and using that as a way of being able to be independent, for be it, for women who might be in situations that they feel they may not be able to get themselves out of, being able to manage money, understand money is a useful tool for them. But also when it comes to things like, for example, be it, migrants, understanding that, Australia has a lot of opportunities, and seeing that, maybe they'll be able to see through some of the things that I've been able to do, what is actually possible for them, that they might, put themselves out there despite what other people might say, or despite what they might see. Because I think that oftentimes when I go, particularly when I go and speak at events that are for the CALD community, a lot of people will say, I've always wanted to do this, but I've never seen someone else that looks like me, or I never thought that it's possible. I'd like to use financially empowered. I hope that, it grows beyond myself, being able to, continue to employ, people from CALD backgrounds, and continue to teach financial literacy globally.
That's fantastic. So I have a curiosity, because as part of what you do, obviously you talk about money.
Yes.
And money sometimes, or many times actually, has that sort of, is more like a bad connotation. So when you bring this sort of knowledge and talk about money, so do you see the people reacting to it, or thinking that's not for them, or being confused with those sort of different connotations of what money means?
So I think, yeah, so money is often a taboo topic. You don't talk about money. We've often been told, yeah, it's rude to talk about money. But as part of what I do is, talk about why it's important to talk about money, what happens when we don't talk about money. And because a lot of my audience and the people that I work with are women, our kids or their kids are going to learn and emulate what they do when it comes to money. And so if we've made mistakes when it comes to money, or don't understand or know how to manage money, their kids are going to pick that up, and they're going to make the same mistakes. And so a lot of the times, that will make people sort of think twice. Also, being able to share the things that I've experienced and the challenges that I've had openly, to say, just because I'm teaching or talking about money does not make me perfect. I have made my own mistakes, and so this is why I'm also teaching what I'm teaching, so they don't have to make those same mistakes. So that generally tends to change people's views and tend to open up. Also knowing that they are in an environment where it's safe to discuss money, confidential, and there's no judgment from me.
Yeah, no, very good. So Grace, I always mention this to our guests in the show, that the 30 minutes that we set up to do in the beginning always fly.
Yeah.
And today I don't even think that I started. So and it's 30 minutes already. So I'm feeling differently today. So I wanted this conversation to keep going. So I will ask you like it's a final question, right? So look, I hear your story. You start talking about your story, and I recognize your privileges. So it's quite a common is quite a common threat. You know, when I talk with the women that come to the show, so perceiving themselves in a position of privilege despite any sort of diversity is quite a unique matter, a unique subject. So then you came along to have a to have so far an amazing career, right? It's a career that had it's a very early success. Then you pivot, you find some purpose, you found some purpose and follow that passion, and thriving in doing that and continuing your journey. So at the end of the day, this is you are like a walk the talk in what I imagine what the changing the game is about. So it's the people that are able to follow the dreams, to change the game, to pivot, to find purpose and etc. So if I ask you to give an advice for a young person, right? So it doesn't have to be a young woman or young, but given that you work with women, with minorities and etc. If you have to give an advice to show them that this is possible, what that would be?
Ooh, where do I begin? So I think one of the biggest things that I would say is that I do understand the challenges, but I think sometimes we need to start with ourselves. And so not believing anything that we're told is not possible because of our age, our gender, our race, or any other terms that are used to differentiate you, and being able to believe in ourselves. The second thing I would then say, even though I know you said one thing, is to put yourself out there. No one is going to know that you're there or that you're looking for an opportunity if you don't put yourself out there. And putting yourself out there can also just mean looking for mentors who can then give you access to networks or opportunities that you don't know exist. So don't be afraid to ask.
I love it. Look, I will stop because then we don't finish this. So I'm probably gonna find out a way for us to have another conversation and have another episode. So Grace, I'm extremely grateful to have you. So you very walk the talk of what changing the game is about, as I mentioned before. So I'm grateful. I thank you, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me and creating a platform where, women can talk about, changing the game, because we do need to change the game.
Yeah. So everyone, this is Grace Mugabe. I'm pretty sure you will join me to acknowledge how great this was. And until the next one. So, first season of Changing the Game, getting to the end. So this is the 16th episode. So we're gonna have only 17 episodes every season. That's as a surprise for you guys. You got to know why 17 is important for me later on. And this is it. Thank you again, Grace. And until the next show.